We have often heard that all is fair in love and war. Well, they forgot to mention sports. In this video, let's take a look at 10 athletes who were caught cheating. Let's begin. Number 1. Michael Pineda. He had a promising start with being an all-star and finished 5th in balloting for American League Rookie of the Year in his rookie season. But he decided to gamble his reputation by trying to cheat, and that too, very obviously. He applied a sticky substance called pine tar on his neck. This substance is banned in baseball since it helps the pitchers get the unfair advantage of having a better grip on the ball. He was quickly caught when the referee and even some audience members noticed his neck looking a little more sweaty than usual. Sadly, Michael Pineda did not learn from this incident. He was caught cheating again recently. He tested positive for using performance-enhancing drugs. This led him to being suspended from 60 games beginning of 2020 by Major League Baseball. Number 2. Joe Nakro. Another baseball player who risked his 22-year-long career when he decided to scruff his baseball with sandpaper. Doing this trick affects the wind resistance, thus creating difficulty for the batter to hit the ball. It's a smart and smooth trick though. Unfortunately, he wasn't smart enough to not get caught. When asked to empty his pockets, he attempted to throw the sandpaper away, but we guess luck wasn't on his side that day. He was ejected from the game shortly after. He tried arguing back that the sandpaper was in order to keep his nails buffed, but the authorities didn't get carried away with his lies. He was handed a 10-game suspension for cheating. Number 3. 2012 London Olympics cheating scandal. In sports, you play to win, but these 8 women badminton players were disqualified from the Olympics for trying to lose matches. Their strategy was to get a favorable quarterfinal draw. They wanted to avoid facing the stronger teams in later rounds. 16 teams entered the women's double tournament, and only half qualified for the knockout stage. It was possible for the teams to get away with one remaining game, but they ended up being caught. The players were from China, South Korea, and Indonesia, and the Badminton World Federation disqualified them by actually saying that they were not using one's best efforts to win the match. Number 4. Tonya Harding. Apparently, sports can get as dirty as politics if the players are desperate enough to win. This scandal was quite a shocker for people because the player stooped down to the level of committing a criminal act against her opponent. Tonya Harding had a promising ice skating start until she was placed opposite Nancy Kerrigan. It was during the build-up to the 1994 Winter Olympics that the pressure got to her head and she foolishly followed the advice of her then husband bodyguard and had Kerrigan attacked. The intent was to damage her legs, but the attack was poorly planned and Kerrigan suffered minor injuries. As a result, Tonya Harding's husband went to jail. The U.S. Olympic Committee intended to disqualify Harding, but she retaliated with a $25 million lawsuit. Before her turn on the ice rink, her laces broke. She started crying and convinced the judges to give her a chance. She came at 8th position. Nancy Kerrigan took a silver medal home. Number 5. Louise Resto and Billy Collins Jr. Boxing is a brutal game, even when played fair and square. Add cheating to the equation and it becomes ruthless. Louise Resto mercilessly pounded Billy Collins for 10 rounds straight in the 1983 match at Madison Square Garden. As the game went on, Billy Collins started swelling and bleeding profusely. Louise Resto won the match, but when he went to shake the hand of Billy Collins Sr., he immediately noticed something different about the gloves and called the commissioner. It turned out that Louise Resto had not only removed the padding, but also the tape used to wrap his hands in that fight had been soaked in plaster of Paris, giving him a pair of hardened casts underneath his non-padded gloves. Louise Resto and his trainer served 3.5 years in prison and got suspended. Billy Collins suffered more as the doctors told him he can't fight again. He died soon afterward in an accident. Number 6. Paul Millsap and sticky basketball. Using substances in sports is pretty common. Sometimes, the substances are consumed while other times they're applied to the objects, like in this case. Paul Millsap was about to have his 3-shoot throw when he felt his hands sticking to the ball. On further investigation, it turned out that the basketball was covered with an illegal substance, stickum, to make it sticky. This would make the ball stick to Paul's hands and mess up his throw. The culprit was Dwight Howard. He went on to confess that he cheated on his Twitter account. Number 7. Pacers-Pistons Brawl. On Friday, November 19, 2004, in a match between Indiana Pacers and defending champions Detroit Pistons, an ugly fight began. It was a National Basketball Association or NBA game held in Auburn Hills, Michigan. The Pacers were winning the game with a score of 97-82. Only 45.9 seconds were left in the game when player from Pistons team Ben Wallace parried a layup shot but was fouled hard by the opposing team player Meta Sanford Artest. This led to an ugly brawl between players of both teams. The fight was stopped by referees, but while Meta Artest was cooling down, an audience member threw a drink at him. This led to another round of fights, this time between players and spectators, that stretched from the seats down to the court and lasted several minutes. Referees were forced to end the game without playing the remaining time. This incident eventually caused 9 players to be suspended from 146 games. The suspended players lost $11 million in salary. 5 players and 5 fans were charged with assault. Those 5 fans were banned from Pistons home games for life. Number 8. Lance Armstrong doping case. During most of his career, Lance Armstrong was accused of using performance-enhancing drugs. He was considered a hero by his fans for being a cancer survivor, and he used this fandom to his advantage. He led his fans to believe that he was the target of a smear campaign when the allegations surfaced. He kept fighting and denying vehemently the allegations against him until 2004, when an insurer got suspicious. Bob Hammond, the insurer, read a book by cycling journalists Pierre Ballister and David Walsh, which was full of circumstantial evidence against Lance Armstrong. Thus began his downfall. The authorities of the United States Anti-Doping Agency reviewed the evidence collected by Bob Hammond. Lance Armstrong was humiliated on a massive level. He was stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles. After facing public outrage, he finally admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs. He tried to defend himself with a lame excuse that a lot of athletes were using drugs to improve their performance, but his fans had lost faith in him. It was later revealed that he had even bribed some of the higher-level officials to get away with doping and using drugs to enhance his performance. Number 9. Rosie Ruiz. In the Boston Marathon of 1980, Rosie Ruiz was one of the participants who ended up completing the marathon in the record time of 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 56 seconds. It was the 3rd fastest time ever recorded by a woman in a marathon. She was rewarded with a medal, a laurel wreath, and a silver bowl. After a week, however, the race officials stripped her of her victory after it came to light that she had indeed cheated. She jumped into the race only a mile before the finish line. This was a miscalculation on her part. Her plan was to get shuffled between the other women racers, but she misjudged the distance and ended up entering ahead of the other 448 female competitors. After a thorough investigation of the race photographs and conducting interviews of the spectators, her fraud was pretty evident. Number 10. Boris Onyshenko. In the 1976 Olympics in Montreal, Boris was a competitor in the modern pentathlon. It was a fencing competition, and the winner had to score the most number of hits against the opponent. Boris found a shortcut way to win, or he thought. He attached a device to his épée through which he could increase the number of hits simply by pressing a button. The device attached was basically an intricate wiring mechanism in a sword. His plan failed when the British team noticed his hits falling short, yet the score kept increasing. After being investigated, he was disqualified. It was a sad turn of events since he was a favorite because he had won a silver medal in the Olympics before. And that's a wrap on 10 athletes who were caught cheating. Did we mention any of your faves? Were you surprised to see any of these major sportsmen on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you in the next one.